The following is a paid advertisement of St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedics. References to any specific product, services, or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by St. Anthony Hospital, Carroll Broadcasting, or its advertisers. The views expressed by the host or guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Welcome to the St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedic Show with Dr. Richard Godding. Dr. Godding specializes in joint preservation, reconstruction, and replacement surgery, and brings over 25 years of orthopedic excellence to St. Anthony Hospital and to the Carroll area. For more information about Dr. Godding, his practice, or St. Anthony Orthopedics, go to santanthonyhospital.org or make an appointment by calling 712-794-5536.
Good Sunday morning, Iowa. It's Dr. Rick Godding. Thank you for choosing to spend some Sunday morning time with me. Lots of updates from last week. If you missed the show last week, right before I came into the studio, I got a call from my mom. Now, my mom she's 82, and she had both knees replaced about 6 years ago by another surgeon, and she told me on Sunday, the varicose veins on the back of my leg are kind of hurting a little bit. And I thought, we'll get you to see a vascular surgeon. So I get a call on Monday morning about 10 o'clock. Oh, it's big and it's red and it hurts real bad. Oh my gosh. And right behind the knee, I said, well, you need to get up here. Because what you worry about, there's two things you worry about with knee replacements. It's blood clots and infections. And I was thinking at that time, infection, because it got big and red real fast, and it was behind her knee but sort of to the side. So classically, blood clots that we really worry about are behind the knee or above. I'm going to go into some detail here, so I'm just going to finish her story, and then I'll talk to some details about blood clots and infections and knee replacements. And so I said, well, you just got to come up, and we brought her to the office, and we got her an ultrasound, and I would say she was very, very pleased with the care she got at St. Anthony's. She said the ultrasound tech was fantastic and accommodative and cheerful and pleasant. And then, and she said the orthopedic surgeon she saw was just a dashing, handsome young man with a good mother. No, but anyway, and I had talked to my partner and I said, look, I'm not going to operate on my mom, because I was thinking abscess, got to open it up, drain it, wash it out so it doesn't infect the knee joint. And he said he would, but then I was happy to see her in the clinic. I'm not gonna operate on my mom. So we sent off the labs and got the ultrasound, and the ultrasound said that she had a superficial clot. And I'm going to talk about what that means, the difference between a deep DVT, deep vein thrombosis, versus a superficial clot, which is what she had, which was great news. But it was still a red, and you can have what is called a thrombophlebitis, which is an infection of the skin around a superficial clot. Those things can occur kind of together. So we put her on antibiotics, and I had put her on aspirin, but her doctor, I said, look, I got you through this first bit. Now I want someone else to take over your care. She went and saw her doctor, who changed the antibiotics because he said this was a little bit better on the stomach. I don't know that I agree with that, but I don't care. The one that he used is fine. I use it all the time. There's a choice of medicines, and he chose a different one, and I wasn't going to argue, and I thought it was perfectly appropriate for what we were doing. And he wanted her to be a little bit more anticoagulated for a short period of time, which I acquiesced to. And so she's doing fine. And yeah. And so in addition, I dropped my daughter off at University of Missouri on Saturday. And yeah, there were some tears shed. I didn't see her cry, but I'm sure she did, but I definitely cried. She said to my wife, I can't believe you guys are going to be 4 hours away. So, it's, we drove home, we dropped her off Saturday, and there really wasn't much else for us to do. I mean, we got her dorm room all together, and then it was time to go. And so we dropped her off and drove home. We got home well after midnight, actually. And we just sat in her room, and it was just like, wow, that's done. She's out of the house. And everybody that's gone through it knows exactly what it is that you go through. And it's one of those things where you know it's coming, but when it happens, it's just, I mean, there's only certain times in your life that your life changes as much as when your kid goes off to college. And that is when you go off to college yourself or out of the house, whatever you go to work. I shouldn't say off to college because I know a lot of kids go, but just leave the house. Then your first job, which could be right when you leave the house. But if you do go to college, then you go get that first job. For me, you know, that took a while because I went to medical school and residency and all that. And then when you get married, and then when you have a kid. And so there's, as far as how your life practically changes, like when my dad passed away, I didn't see my dad every day. You know, he lived in Florida. So on the day to day, I mean, it hurt and everything, but it didn't affect my day to day life. I mean, this is like one of those, again, one of those 4 or 5 times in your life where your life alters dramatically on the day to day. And it's been a little sad, but listen, we're going down Labor Day weekend. We're going to go for Parents' Day. We're going to go for homecoming. She's coming home Thanksgiving. She's coming home Christmas. So it's fine. And then, you know, I expect she will not come home for spring break, as I certainly wouldn't have at that age. And then next summer she'll live at home. And then probably the year after that, there'll be fewer football games and fewer things like that. So it's a weaning process. But I'm excited to see her. She's going through Rush down there, and it's a lot of pressure, but a lot of fun as well, I think. And so I'm excited to see how she goes with it. And my youngest quit volleyball after all these years and joined tennis. And she's super happy because there's no pressure, and it's just the tennis coach at our school is super cool. He said, "Look, just come on out and you swing a racket. We'll breathe some fresh air and you have a good time." I'm like, that's just what she needed. So things are good in my world. As I said last week, I get up and I'm embarrassed sometimes at how good I have it. And you know, maybe not embarrassed isn't the word, but just very humbly grateful for how great my life is, and I don't sleep on that, and I don't forget about that at all. I love what I do. I love where I work. I love the people I work with, my partner, the nurses and the staff, and yeah. So anyway, so back to my mom's leg. So when you've had a knee replacement, early or late, meaning in the first few weeks or late, there's still the 2 things that you worry about. Now, blood clots are most often in the first 6 weeks to 3 months. But blood clots can happen to people who haven't had injuries and haven't had surgery. So blood clots can just happen. So when you talk about blood clots, we're talking about a clot in the vein. So the arteries take the blood away from the heart, and the veins take them back to the heart. However, if you have blood clot in your leg, it's going to go to your lungs before it goes to your heart. If you have a big blood clot in your leg and it travels to your lungs, it can kill you. So it's very serious. Now, that is called a deep venous thrombosis. Thrombosis just means blood clot. Deep means in the deep vessels, and venous means it's veins rather than arteries. Arteries can get clots, but it's much, much more rare, and it's different consequences and all that. And we're not talking about that today. But so what my mom had was a superficial blood clot. So it was not in the deep, and we know this because we sent her for the ultrasound, and the radiologist said, no, this is the vein it's in, and it's not dangerous in the way that it would be if it was behind the knee. Now, behind the knee and above are very dangerous. Below the knee, most people nowadays, I wouldn't treat it. Well, I wouldn't treat it aggressively with aggressive blood thinners. I would just treat it with aspirin. Now, you know, there are different people are going to do things differently, but my thought is if you're on these blood thinners and you fall over and you're elderly and you fall over, like my mom has a staircase. If she falls down those stairs on blood thinners, you know, that can be the end of her. So, you know, that's a lot of factors that go into it. So anyway, so she ended up with this superficial clot, but she had this red, warm area around it. And so thrombophlebitis is just basically an irritation of the skin that's caused by vascular problems. And so this thrombophlebitis means that it was caused by this blood clot in her superficial vein. And it was very red, and, you know, her markers of inflammation were very high. Well, that can happen either with a clot or with an infection. So just to be safe, we went ahead and treated her both with some blood thinning and with antibiotics. And I think the real take-home point, what I want everybody to understand about this is that if you've had a knee replacement, if you think that you might have an infection anywhere in your body, I don't care where it is or when it is. If you have a toe nail that is big and red and angry. Maybe you clipped your toenail and, sometimes you get that big red angry and sometimes pus will even come out on the side there. Go to your doctor and just get some antibiotics, because what can happen is, so as the bacteria are in that area, some of them are going to go into the bloodstream just because they're all around, right? And the blood, sometimes the pressure is going to push some of those bacteria into the bloodstream. Well, they're going to go back through the circulation, and it is possible that they can go into the knee. And if they get into the knee and you start an infection there, then you got to get in there and get that infection out. Once there's a knee replacement or a hip replacement or shoulder replacement, if you get an infection in that joint that is already replaced, you can't just treat it with antibiotics. You have to operate on it. It's 100% of the time. You have to operate on it if it's deep like that. But then there are superficial infections, like what my mom may or may not have, that you can treat just with antibiotics. If you have an infection in a different part of your body, like I said, you'll want to get that taken care of, because if that bacteria goes through your bloodstream and into your joint, it can be an absolute catastrophe. So, in the end, you just need to be aware. These things are all very, very rare. So my mom did not have a DVT. She does not have a deep blood clot. Deep blood clots after knee replacements are about 1 in 1,000 now. And fatal ones are, I think, like 1 in 10,000, something like that. So they're very rare, but listen, you got to be aware of them because they can happen. And infections are less than 1% in our hands here at St. Anthony's. We know because we track this. That is lower than the national average, and we do a lot of things to make sure that we don't have infections. I have my patients taking probiotics before the surgery because that's been shown. You're going to bathe for a week. You're going to put some antibiotic ointment in your nostrils. We have special solutions that we use during the surgery. We put antibiotics in the incision before we close it. We have the spacesuits. We have special kind of airflow in the operating room to keep bacteria from just circling around. So we do a lot to make sure it's not by accident that we have a very low infection rate here. But we still, every once in a while, Dr. Dirks and I here recently, we've done 1,000 Mako joints here at St. Anthony's. I think I've done 580 and he's done 4 something. And so we got over 1,000, and, we've had a couple infections, but not a ton, fewer than 10 in all of those. And so it's really, when you do have a joint replacement, whether you have a hip or a knee, you have to understand that this is number one, it's a big operation, but it's a lifetime operation. And you kind of have to think about those kind of things on an ongoing basis. And so, I wanted to take the opportunity there to educate people as to what should you do if you have, behind your knee starts to really hurt after you've had a knee replacement, especially in those first 3 months, but really at any time, if it really is you're starting to get some swelling and some pain, get in and see your doctor. Get straight to your orthopedic surgeon or an orthopedic surgeon if you can. Otherwise, just get to your own doctor, and they will certainly, their radar will go off and they will get you in the appropriate hands as quick as they can. And I guess my overriding message is don't wait. Once you have a knee replacement or a hip replacement, and all these things are less common in hip. Blood clots are a little more common in the hips. No, I'm sorry, they're less common in the hips. Infections are a little less common in the hips, but they're all very low. Once you have that hip or that knee in there, pay close attention. And if something starts to go wrong, hey, just get it taken care of. I talk about this with chronic conditions. Sometimes I use the analogy that if your shoulder's hurting, get in and see a doctor. Just because, if you're a farmer, or let's say you move big equipment or whatever it is, if you hear your tractor's wheel clicking and knocking, you're not going to wait on that. You're going to, what the heck is clicking and knocking? Do that same thing for yourself, especially if you make your living with your shoulders, especially, but to a lesser extent your knees, but certainly, because shoulders especially, I'm going off on a different subject here, but shoulders especially, as like if you have a rotator cuff tear and that gets bigger and bigger and bigger, your options get more involved and more involved and more involved. So whatever it is that you're having, I'm not saying run to the doctor every time your shoulder hurts a little bit, but if it's starting to hurt, go see the doctor. And so circling back to the present subject at hand, which is joint replacements and the need for you to be aware and alert to redness, warmth, swelling, and pain around that knee replacement. In front of it, in back of it, same thing in the hip, redness, warmth, swelling, and pain. Mostly pain with the hips because they're so deep. But I don't want you to sit and say, oh, it's probably going to be all right. I want, at least this is why my patients all, when they have a joint replacement, they all have my cell phone number. They just text me, hey doc, I don't like the way my knee is looking, and I get back to them and we work it out. And sometimes what I say is, hey, you're a radio listener from Western Iowa. Why don't you get in and to the urgent care as quick as you can, or get into your doctor as quick as you can, or drive here and I'll meet you here, that kind of stuff. But just know that once the knee replacement's over, even after that first bit, and shoulders in it as well, even after that first bit of time where the big complications are the most likely in that first 3 months, still pay very close attention to those kind of things. Redness, warmth, swelling, lots of pain, things like that. And, most of the time it checks out. And again, my mom's situation was not super serious, but certainly wasn't comfortable. She had a lot of pain and we did have to treat it. But, I just wanted to make sure. And that's what I treated my mom like I would treat any of my patients. And I said, get in and see me. And so yeah, just have that vigilance about your replaced joint and vigilance about your body in general. If you have an infection, once you have a joint replacement in there, if you have a tooth abscess, if you have a toe abscess, get some antibiotics in there. Don't let yourself get to the point that you have an infection deep in that joint, because those things they range from unpleasant to catastrophic. There's no good ones. Yeah, so here we go. School's about to start. Football's about to start. Fall is swinging in. I did start a new YouTube channel where I interview people that play music, and I play music with them. And if you look on YouTube, it's at Dr. Rick Show, all one word, at Dr. Rick, DRRICK Show, at Dr. Rick Show on YouTube. If you're interested in that, it's nice. I interviewed 3 people that I was playing some music with who are very talented musicians and have great stories. So if you're just bored on a Sunday and you want to look at that. But other than that, pay attention to your replaced joints and really just understand that it is a lifetime operation and there are things you got to think about for the rest of your life. So with that, those of you who have dropped your kids off, I feel your pain. And it's just now, over these next few weeks, we let it turn into excitement and bask in the warm memories of that 18 years that kid spent with you. So I will be back next week, and you just have a blessed week, Iowa.
This has been the St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedic Show with Dr. Richard Godding. For more information about Dr. Godding, his practice, or St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedics, go to www.santanthonyhospital.org or make an appointment by calling 712-794-5536.